just want to say Tim is the nicest guy. I'm not. I'm mad. But not at clerks. I'm here to encourage today. People need to know what to do next. And a lot of the things that have happened, as Tim mentioned, happened at a high level. To prove that, a Senate oversight report was commissioned and done. Senator McBroom led it. And in that report, so this is not news or just information or hearsay or my opinion, in that, our Senate Oversight Committee confirms that our information goes to Spain first, before you ever see it. Okay, that's a fact. Okay? So now think about that. Why does our most critical data go to Spain before you see it? So if it goes there, it can change on the way back, right? Okay, that's just a fact. You need to start asking why. How come our senators think that's okay? Our senators are supposed to uphold your constitutional rights. Okay, so I want to encourage people with the law and what our founding fathers gave us. And we've kind of lost a sense of what it really means to be free. You can't enumerate freedom. So why am I here today? In 2020, I live in Cass County, just above the border, just above South Bend, and in my little town of Dowagiac, something weird happened. On election day, Trump lost, and Republican Representative Fred Upton won. Okay, now the only way for that to happen is for all of the Republicans in the Republican county I live in to uncheck Trump and check Fred Upton. The likelihood of that happening is not good. Okay, now it's not proof of anything, but it's very, very odd. Okay? So I started to get involved. One of the reasons I'm going to speak on what I'm about to is because of this gentleman here. Sheriff Darleaf created this constitutional sheriff class, and he, with an attorney, Brent Allen Winters, created this great information set that reminded us of what rights we have, the things our founding fathers gave us, and it's really, really empowering, so I hope to share that with you. So one of the first things to remember is a clerk is elected. That means something. When the people elect someone, we are empowering you and we give you rights and powers. It's not, oh, it's your turn to get paid. But that's kind of what it's become. So who does the clerk work for? They're not an employee of anyone. But I've talked to clerks, and they actually, some clerks, think they work for the State Clerks Association, or they think they work for the Secretary of State. Okay? But they work for their township elected them. And they have a responsibility, a constitutional responsibility to the people of that township. So first they work for the Constitution and the law. We are a nation of laws, and everyone is subject to the law. The president is subject to the law. Everyone's subject to the law. We have to remember that. And then they work for the people who elected them. That is their responsibility. They have a sworn oath of office before entering the duties, and they are to faithfully discharge those duties of office according to the law, especially for the safekeeping of records, books, and papers. And they're responsible to deliver these papers to their successor. Okay? And that's important. Now, how can you deliver these papers to your successor if someone else comes in and takes those papers? Okay? This is a really, really important concept. Their charge is a really important one. It's essential to the functioning of our government. Okay, the clerk has a duty for all records, books, and papers, and all records must be kept by the clerk in a safe and proper place where they not be exposed to any unusual hazard of fire or theft. Well, theft might be from someone who's official, someone who comes in and takes their papers. If they don't have authorization to do that, that's theft. Okay, we don't think of it like that, but that's exactly what it is. A township clerk, going back up a second, a duty cannot be assigned to another or deprived by another. So someone who takes an oath for a constitutional duty and has that responsibility, they can't give it to another person, and another person can't take it away from them. That's the power that we gave them. And we have to help them uphold that. Okay? A lot of these clerks are operating without any support from us, and that has to change. A township clerk is obligated by law to maintain custody and control over all township records, and this has been a ruling in court. So, in the case of McKim, I said, can hardly fulfill her duty of safekeeping if another entity is allowed to unilaterally come in and without notice take control of possessions of such items. So the clerk is to keep control and no one else can come get it. It's really, really important. A clerk can audit their own paperwork. They don't need anyone's permission to audit. And if they find a problem, they can withdraw the results. They don't need anyone's permission. They're like, there was a problem, I'm withdrawing the results. Now the House of Representatives can force a clerk to rescind or withdraw if they suspect there's a crime. But anyone can voluntarily say, this is bad data, we need to look at it again. Okay, we have that right. The law says, okay, I've heard this a lot, maybe you have too, there's no remedy. Have you heard that before? There's no remedy? Okay, well, we all know, American law, any law obtained via fraud is not enforceable. Okay? But we've forgotten that, and we've allowed people to say, there's nothing you can do about it. Okay, that's simply not true. Everybody's child knows if you're playing a game and someone's cheat, the cheater goes. Okay? Okay, so here's some support for the clerks. Clerks need to realize that they're not alone. So, no one else directs a clerk. Part of the fact that they're elected to their township and their county gives them control over that county. That's their responsibility, and no one is above them. No one else gets to tell them what to do. Any person, whether or not an officer of election or custodian, who willfully steals, destroys, conceals, mutilates, or alters any record or paper required by Section 301 of 52 U.S.C. 20701 to be retained and preserved shall be fined not more than $1,000 or prison not more than 1 year. So it's a serious matter. These laws were made felonies because that's how important the election is. Okay, your vote is important. It's the base of our society. So the crime, the punishment should be high if it's violated. Okay? These provisions clearly provide that the custodian designated by law is to retain custody and is responsible to comply to it. Okay? That's part of the seriousness of their job. Instructions and directions to destroy and or delete electronic or digital data, including the drives in which the election data scanned image was stored, is a direct violation of these laws. Okay, so another office can't direct someone to destroy this data, but this is what happened. There was one of the clerks at the Clerks Association office directed other clerks to destroy data so that their machine would run faster. Okay, that's a violation of the law to preserve data for 22 months. Okay? Township clerks are elected officials subject to duties imposed by law. In each organized township, there shall be elected a clerk whose legislative and administrative powers and duties shall be provided by law. The township clerk has duties prescribed by statute, which include filing and safely keeping papers required by law to be filed in his or her office. And here's the laws that support that. I guess I'm off here. Okay. Okay, so this is important. This is Michigan Codified Law 4165. Authorizes only the township clerk to have control of the township papers. Really, really important. It's and it clarifies that the state can't come in and take that clerk's papers. Okay? That's Michigan law. It's not Michigan opinion. So a little bit on jurisdiction. I used to kind of focus on county clerks. The township clerks are very critical, and they have just as much power for their elected township. So the county clerk and jurisdictional clerks have complementary functions. For election, the jurisdictional township and city clerks are in charge of handling the ballot processing functions. That's huge. That's really, really important. The county clerk runs a school district, cross-jurisdictional type elections that are not completely within townships and cities. Okay, so the county clerk is kind of over the head. Okay, but that doesn't supersede the importance and criticalness of what the township clerks do, because they're the ones who control the main count.
Slide.
Thank you. Tim taught me how to say thank you. Okay, so this is excerpted from the authorities and responsibilities of Michigan Township officials, boards, and commissioners from the Township Association in '95. And in '95, they didn't have all the electronic stuff we have today. They didn't have a lot of the digital interfaces. You couldn't go online and portal and get something. So they did something clever, and they used this word all. So it means that things that happen include all. If something is related to the process, it's included, even if it's a new invention, okay? And You will find a few people who are saying, well, that's not in the law, it's a new invention, this videotape's not covered because it wasn't talked about in 95. Okay, that's just not true. All is all. Say that, all is all.
Slide. Yes.
Okay, so,
Slide.
brilliant. Okay, so all records of the township, except those which have some confidential character, are public records that are open to inspection and at reasonable times. At reasonable times meant back then that you couldn't only have them available at 10 o'clock in the morning. They had to be available at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock when people got off work and could see them. You have to make public documents available. You can't hide them. One of the laws, I can't remember which it is, but it's a crime to secrete information. Secrete means to keep it secret. So if you're hiding information, that's against the law. There was a township clerk who just innocently said that you can't FOIA township information. There's a lot of misinformation that's out there, okay? And you can FOIA township information. It's very important. Grand Blanc has a township FOIA link. This is the link. It's the same for all the other townships. There are some bad clerks, just a few of them. One clerk, she got a FOIA for the ballot envelopes, and these are important because the outside of the ballot is what has the signature. Okay, and so someone FOIA'd that because they want to see there's multiple people writing the signatures. Well, she returned the envelopes with everything redacted. Now think about that for a second. So here's the law, and Democrats use this a lot, that they're big privacy advocates, okay? So there is no expectation of privacy for proving who you are. Your signature and who you are is not private. Okay, you have to prove it publicly. Okay? There is an expectation of privacy for how you voted, but not proving who you are, or that you voted, or that you didn't vote. Okay, who voted and who didn't vote has to be public record, because we have to know what the count was. Okay, and everybody needs to inspect it. That's the base of it, and that's what prevents cheating. There's nothing wrong with technology. Technology is good. I'm a software engineer. I'm a computer security expert. The problem is not technology. The problem is the openness, the transparency. You have to look at it. You have to inspect it. It has to be open. And if you're hiding it, that's a problem. If you won, in America, if you win, you want to show it off. I don't know anybody who doesn't want to brag and show how they won. Okay? So why is everyone hiding how they won? Okay, I had a couple questions on drop boxes. Okay, so Michigan Codified Law 168-761D, Section C covers this on video. You don't have to have a drop box. But if you do, and after 2020, it must have video surveillance, which is effective. The word effective is in the law. And what that means is that the video has to be on all the time. It has to be saved. It has to be watched and accounted for, otherwise there's no purpose for the video. So what that means in practicality is someone is responsible for watching the video, okay, and noticing, okay, 300 people dropped some stuff off, but 1,100 ballots came out. Okay, that's a problem. That happened all over the place. You saw that in 2000 Mules and other places. So why aren't subpoenas being issued for the videotape to catch these people who did the old-fashioned low-tech crime of stuffing the ballots? I like low-tech crime because it's easier to prove than high-tech crime. But someone has to watch these videos and catch these people. These videos are covered because it's required. They have to be retained for the 22 months. You can't just say, we got an answer, I don't need to keep those videos longer than 30 days. Okay, that's just not true. The video is part of the voting process. So here's a couple things. Some people are aware of this law, but you have to really read it and pay attention. I've talked to several police officers. Sheriff Leaf is one of the few who will stand up for constitutional rights and actually defend the law. There's been several law enforcement who have said, well, I'm not involved in the election. Okay, well that just isn't true. I had a district attorney who said, well, I have to go check precedence law. So I would like you to read a couple things. I've pointed these out in red. Can you read this? Okay, hopefully the font's good. So, Michigan Codified Law 168940 says, it is hereby made the duty of every prosecuting attorney. So made the duty means they are compelled to do it, okay? They don't have discretion in this matter. Whenever he shall receive credible information that any such offense has been committed. Credible information. Okay, if you know that someone, or you suspect someone voted twice, you can report it and he has to investigate it. Okay, that's credible information. He has to cause the same to be prosecuted. Okay, it's important that you as citizens clue into the language. It is hereby made the duty, he has to cause it to be prosecuted. Now, everyone has been running around for the past 18 months giving their opinion. I think it happened, I don't think it happened, I don't know, move on. Okay, nobody, none of you have the right to say, move on. Okay, it's up to law enforcement to investigate. Okay, that's what's missing, okay? Section 941 says, it's hereby made the duty of any police officer, sheriff, or other peace officer present and having knowledge of any violation of this act to forthwith institute criminal proceedings. Okay, he's ordered to forthwith institute proceedings. He doesn't have an opinion. He has no discretionary power. The law says you must do this because this is our base protection. It's our base rights. What makes America American? We don't have this, we don't have anyone. So when an officer says, I'm not involved, or it doesn't involve me, or I'm not going to deal with it, or I don't think I need to deal with it, he's just wrong, okay? And this is where you need to tell him and enlighten him. All right, I'm done. If you were a clerk, thank you.
What's the point? Why are they changing the histories? What is that? What are they trying to accomplish by that?
I believe the point is to fix the election. The data manipulation, the evidence that I showed you is the results of the manipulation. So I can say it this way. You got a person laying on the ground, their head is bleeding, and there's a gun nearby. You can kind of assume that the motivation was to kill that person, right? What's the motivation behind manipulating the data? They're fixing the crime.
And if it's malicious, right? I would say that they're trying to cover up the crime too, right? Because you need to have two different books. So they're not just trying to hide it, but they're trying to make, it's exactly what Tim said earlier when he said that, and this is something you learn in engineering school, bad data is worse than no data. And they understand that when you look at this data, you're going to trust it. The majority of people will just trust it. And by having two different sets of books or three different books or whatever, and being able to flip from one to the other and go back and forth or whatever they're doing, however they're doing that, right? I'm simplifying this because it's complicated, right? But if you have two sets of books, then you can cover it up just the same way you'd hand the IRS your fake set of data when you run that mafia spaghetti house, and you say, oh sure, this is not a money laundering operation. And then this, in the same way, you know, these people can say, sure, this is not a vote laundering operation. Maybe, allegedly.
There is a reason that they're protecting the damn machines. They are fighting like crazy so that people do not get those machines, and there's stuff coming out that tied to what's called a Verity drive, but we're learning that it's the machines. We have to get rid of the machines.
Paper ballots.
Paper ballots, yeah.
Call the sheriff.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Our sheriff's a coward.
We have a question back here.
Yeah, I have a question. If a township clerk is supposed to hold those records for 22 months, then the state comes in and says we have an active investigation against you and no charges have been filed yet. And the state troopers come and seize the equipment, and the sheriff stands by and says, I'm just gonna sit back because it's an active warrant out of my jurisdiction. How do we handle that?
Vote the sheriff out.
The way I handled it is I got a hold of Stephanie Lambert, and we filed a lawsuit on them and got the equipment back. The difference was we were already doing an active investigation on it. And this is where I want to encourage the clerks, when you see something oddball going on like that, we have to assist you in that investigation when you request it. And that's what I encourage the clerks to do, is go to your sheriff, go to your city police, and say, hey, we want this investigated, we need help.
The information you presented, I wasn't able to write it down fast enough. The voter history manipulation, that really piqued my interest. The issues with Jackson County specifically. Is Is there a way I can access that information electronically or in print?
Well, my presentation is not available, but what is available is all the statewide information. So what I did is I created a few Jackson-specific slides. So the only way I can really get that to you is through the Jackson contacts that are within this group. I know Jennifer right here. I know a few people here. If you know anyone,
Larry
yeah,
there's several people.
I know Larry, and I can get the information to you, Jackson specific. The key Jackson specific information that we want to get in your hands is what we already shared with many of the clerks statewide. It's all the QVF national change of address discrepancies. So we use the national change of address to clean up what we believe needs to be cleaned up in the QVF. So I gave one slide saying, here's what needs to be cleaned up in Jackson County. There were 160 follow-ups, people voted that didn't live there, right? And then there were 7,000 other areas of interest to clean up in the QVF.
Before you're going, also I have another MCL. Where'd she go?
Over there, she's.
Oh, all right. I got another one for you. And it's right out of the Act 116 of 1954.
Oh, yeah. 280 pages.
Yeah. You ready? All right, it's 168.941. And it says section 941. And it's hereby made to any police, sheriff, or other peace officer present and having knowledge of any violation of any provisions of this act to forthwith institute criminal proceedings.
Amen.
And that's state, that's county, that's township, that's everybody. If you're a peace officer, it's your job.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you so much for coming. This is something that I've went from doing nothing politically to just trying to learn what I could. I knew something wasn't right, just like pretty much everybody else here. About a year ago, I also started following Seth Keschel. Nobody seems to have heard of him, and I find his information very, I'm just a mom, I'm married to an engineer, so I get it, but I don't get it. But Seth Keschel posted this of Jackson County. Something's not right. So a year ago, I went to my township, and everything was fine with the 2020 election. It was fine, and just like, so I'm getting to my question, but the clerks are doing their job for the most part. And you said someone up here is switching things.
The hand of God.
But, so they're, I don't know what's happened. I took packets of information and dropped them off and said, I found this and I don't understand it. I'm not an expert, but this is concerning. And it was, okay, thank you. And so are they just not aware for the most part, or are they being quieted to not be able to do anything? Or
They've been told repeatedly by the Secretary of State that this was the best election ever, and that's what they're writing on. They've got pride, and what happened is their tape matched what their tabulator said, and they're all happy.
Right.
They don't know about the other stuff that went on. They don't know about all these missing votes, and it's running on deaf ears. I would like to do a meeting with just the township clerks and share this with them, and I'm not sure how receptive it's going to be. Right now, like I said, we did FOIA requests. We had some townships that didn't even answer.
So my next question is, if it was just a lack of not realizing what happened, do we need to go back and again say, this is happening. What can we do to support you? Thank you for being here. Because I know that I don't know how to word the rest of my question, but do we just need to keep being persistent?
How do
Yeah,
we get indictment?
yeah, how do we get our communities involved in a supportive way? Like, this is a start. Like, this is the first time since I've started looking into it that I, in person, have heard statistics and not just reading it online. To see it and have people in agreement that are like trying to find the same thing. So how do we get this? And everybody here is aware and wants to pursue something happening. But how do you get this out to the people that don't know?
Okay, I'd like
Or
to
they won't
answer that.
listen. And I'm done. Thank you.
It was an excellent question, and thank you for being here, and thank you for speaking up. There's a couple things that regular people can do, okay? Clerks right now are by themselves, and that's a problem. And it started with right after the election, Dana Nessel went to the Washington Post and said, I will seek to disbar any attorney who gets involved in defending or investigating election fraud. Now, she has no right to do that, okay? But she's a Democrat, that's to be expected. But what did the Republicans do? Nothing. Which Republican senator decried that? Which Republican representative decried that and said that's wrong? Why? We have a Republican majority in the House. We have a Republican majority in the Senate. How could she say that? If we vote these incumbents back in, we truly are the problem, okay? Those people have a responsibility to do the job. It's what we pay them for, okay? And they say, oh, I voted for this bill, I sponsored this bill, I did, okay, but they haven't fixed the problem. The problem is the Attorney General of the state has threatened everybody, okay? That has to be fixed, okay? And it's a real problem. People are afraid because they're gonna come in with big attorneys, and who is gonna defend the clerk? The Attorney General said, I'll disbar you if you defend the clerk. Where are our senators? Okay, if you re-elect a senator, that's a real problem. Okay, the last thing I want you to know is the Michigan Republican Party was put to the question in Kalamazoo, I think 4 months ago, and said, with all the money that you've raised on election integrity, all the money you've collected from all of us, what have you spent on election fraud? And the answer was zero. You have to, okay, this is where you get mad, okay? These people took your money, okay? The Republican Party across America has taken hundreds of millions of dollars on election integrity. Support us, we're fighting for election integrity. They haven't spent a dime on it. The Republican Party should be sponsoring attorneys to defend clerks, to defend your vote. The Republican Party should be speaking out and leadership. Scott McGraw from Kalamazoo had this great quote, and I love it. And he said, voting is not leadership. Okay, all of our leaders are not leading us. Who's leading? Nobody's leading. Any of our elected officials who are up, what are they leading? The answer is nothing, okay? And then they say, oh, I vote. And then they said, okay, this is my favorite, okay? The governor's stopping us. Okay, well, as Larry pointed out, we have this great system in Michigan. 7% of the population can override the governor, okay? And they expect us to do it. We've tried to do it. We've tried to get these ballots, but we tried to do it on our own. Now, what would happen if 10 of our senators got together and led that petition? Okay, the governor can't stop us. We can override the governor. We have the House, we have the Senate, we have this law that lets us. Why are we sitting here? Why are we stuck? Okay? That's true, but this is where we have to do something. We have to start demanding it. And now that it's election system, they're telling you, oh, I tried, I did this, I did that, I'm fighting. But nobody's taking accountability for where we are today. Like, according to all these leaders, it's not my fault. Okay, but that's just not true. All right, I'm done. Now I'm mad.
More detail on the debate.
So vote for grassroots candidates. Christina Caramo, for example. But
One more thing, okay? This is really important. I have to say this, and you have to tell people about this, and they'll answer your question. The Democrats are putting together, there will be on the ballot in November, it's called Protect the Vote, and they're trying to legalize everything that they did in 2020. So that tells you it's against the law right there, because now they're trying to make it law. Okay? This must be defeated. The problem is, all of the criminals are still in control of counting the vote. Nothing has changed. Okay? And the 22 months is going to expire soon. Okay? They keep us looking, they keep us doing this, but what they have prevented us from doing is actually doing anything important. We haven't changed anything yet. So that's what we have to remember.
Precinct delegates are the highest elected position in the land. It's not the president, it's the precinct delegate. Now, we had to put our ballots in again, our application for our ballots. Our county clerk held the grassroots ballots for 2 months and then threw them out and replaced them with a whole bunch of neoconservative rhinos that have never showed up to the Republican Party because they're trying to take it back. And the reason why is because we do stand up for grassroots candidates. We do the work that needs to be done. So just know that when you do this, you're going to be the target. And it's good to be the target.
the only other comment I had is to you, what you were saying. Keep in mind it was 3% of the people that made a difference that started the Revolutionary War. 97% stood back and did nothing. So it might seem like this is not enough, but everybody we can get involved and everybody that we can start to get to stand up, and I do appreciate the people from Hillsdale. That's what we have to do. We really do. And you know, I call the Republican Party and the Democratic Party the uniparty. That's what it is. We have to remember the people that are in office, they're working for themselves. They're trying to create a centralized governance system, and they're trying to take the power away from us. We have to stop it. We have to stand up and stop it.
Listen.